Besides, you're saying it wrong. It's Leviosa, not Furiosa.
What's going on, guys? I hope you're all having a wonderful day today. For those of you that are new to the channel, my name is Ty, and today in this video, we're going to be talking about the brand new entry in the Mad Max saga, that being Furiosa. Now listen, I'll be the first one to admit that I wasn't exactly running to the theater to go see this one. I'm not the biggest Mad Max fan, just like as a franchise overall. And on top of that, I'm just going to be real. I think that Mad Max Fury Road is a good movie. I don't think it's like great or amazing like I know a lot of other people think it is, but that's just my own opinion, and that's okay. But I just want to give you guys my honest thoughts. Did this movie actually break my expectations, which honestly were already pretty mild, or did they disappoint me? Let's just get into things here. Two quick things. First of all, make sure you stick around to the end of the video to check out my final verdict of this movie, and also be sure to like and subscribe. It would mean the world to me. But listen, let's dive right into my thoughts. So like I already said, listen, I'm not the biggest fan of Mad Max Fury Road. I feel like it's a movie that's very focused on action, which I really do enjoy, but there just isn't that much story substance there or character development, in my opinion. Again, if you like the movie, I'm really happy for you. With Furiosa, I feel like all my problems with Fury Road are just solved in this film because, wow, this is a great action movie, a great dystopian, sci-fi, whatever you want to call it, film. That's what you're getting with Furiosa. Another thing that I didn't really mention that I'm not really very fond of is Anya Taylor-Joy. And listen, again, it's not that I dislike her or anything. I'm just not really a fan of her. I don't really love the movies that she's in. But in this movie, she won me over. She is so great in this as Furiosa. But listen, I'm kind of bouncing all over the place here. Let's get into the finer details. So, like I already alluded to, the story that's being told here, it's very personal to our main character, Furiosa. We're getting a better understanding of where she came from, and I think that it fits so well into this franchise. And I think that if I even rewatched Fury Road, like I said, you know, I'm not really that high on it. I think I would like it even better because now I see where she came from, because as you know, this is a prequel just showing Furiosa's background. There are a lot of really tense, emotional scenes in here that you could tell made her who she is today, kind of like this stone cold badass basically, because in this movie she is absolutely a badass. She's as badass as it gets. She is awesome as a character. There's actors that play her when she's also like a child. It's not just Anya Taylor-Joy. I think Anya Taylor-Joy shows up like halfway through this movie, if anything, maybe after like the first act or so, but regardless, I absolutely loved her in this. I think it fleshed out her character super well. Speaking of characters, oh my god, the standout of this movie though, as great as Anya Taylor-Joy is and as great as Furiosa is as a character, has gotta be Dementus, the main villain played by Chris Hemsworth. I already love Chris Hemsworth as Thor. I'm a big MCU fan, but of course I love other movies too, especially sci-fi films, especially crazy characters, and he brings just such great, insane, savage energy to this role. This is literally peak Chris Hemsworth. It makes me feel so good just seeing that. And don't get me wrong, he was great in the MCU, he was always doing his own thing, but it feels like he's really just letting loose here. And he was like talking with George Miller, and he was just like, listen, I'm just gonna go crazy. And George Miller was just like, dude, do whatever the hell you want. And that's what he did. He's menacing. You love to hate him, but you also slightly see where he's coming from. I think that my favorite thing about his character though, besides the way that he looks, I like the prosthetic makeup that they have. He has like a bit of a bigger nose. It's pretty cool. The one thing that I really liked about him, and you'll see this in the movie if you watch it, it's not a spoiler or anything, is that he's simultaneously very, very dumb and also very, very smart with what he does. And I think that makes him a pretty unique villain. Like, I don't want to say like I've never seen it before. I don't have an example off the top of my head, but I was like, damn, this is actually very interesting. I feel like I haven't seen a villain have this type of personality ever, or like at least, you know, recently off the top of my head. Like I already mentioned, it's a very unique characteristic that I feel like I don't see played out too often. He is great. You love to hate him. He's great throughout the entire film. The intro of this film is awesome. Just had to throw that in there. Like the first 20 minutes, just unbelievably good. The action here is just awesome. I mean, it's great. It's groundbreaking. Every single set piece looks wonderful. There's some set pieces where, yeah, sure, we're getting our typical Mad Max stuff where we're literally just driving and there's just these hijinks going on, but there's also some set pieces in locations which I feel differs a bit from the first film here. Well, I know there's other Mad Max films, but I'm just referring to Fury Road, and it's great. They're all super tense. There's explosions, there's practical effects, there's CGI, which I will talk about in a minute because that might be a little bit of a negative, but regardless, all of this action is so awesome. It's loud. All of the sound mixing is phenomenal, and it's just so cool to see our characters in this environment just going through all this crazy stuff. The lore and the world building, the way that we're playing off of Fury Road, even though this is a prequel, I think is great. Like, this is the definition of the perfect foundation of a prequel, because this movie, again, not really a spoiler, it has chapters. There's 5 chapters, I believe. Like, a card will come up on the screen and say what this next chapter is going to be. And I think that it helps break up the movie a bit more, and you understand where the other characters fit into this world. Of course, there's the guy with the mask. His name's like, what, Immortal Joe or something? Immortal Man Joe? I don't know. I forgot his name. He's a really cool character, and you see, oh, that's how he fits in here. We get to see Gastown. We get to see the Bullet Farm. We get to see these places that we heard about, but we don't really get a good look at in the first movie. So I think that it's fleshed out way more here. We're moving around. We understand why these characters are doing this and this character is doing that. Everything's fleshed out more. It makes this world feel way more lived in. Even though this is a desert, right? It feels very full. It doesn't feel very empty, and I really like that. Anyone could pop out at any second. You have an idea of where everything is. It's just awesome. It's very simple. There's just 3 towns and a desert, but it's fleshed out in a way that I feel like a lot of other like movies struggle to do. One more thing that I do want to talk about with this movie that just really blew me away, before we get into the negatives here in a second, is just the color grading and just all the technical aspects, because man, I'm biased towards orange films. I'm gonna be honest, orange is my favorite color. So when a movie just looks warm, they're in the desert, oh my god, it's great. Everything's so dramatic, over the top, everyone's sweating, all the makeup looks great. I mean, it's grimy, it's disgusting. That's what this should be. This is a wasteland. These people aren't, you know, dancing around with clear skin. No, they're in a rough environment trying to survive, and not just trying to survive, they're also trying to actively kill each other. So that makes things a lot worse on top of the already rough environment that they're already in. So I've got to give, you know, a shout out to like the makeup department, the costume department, just everything. Whoever was color grading it, it's awesome. And I've got to say, George Miller really brought his A game here, because you feel his style through that. It's like he's living through this film, and I could really appreciate him. Getting into some of the negatives here, though, I do have a couple of things that I do just want to talk about, just touch on, but honestly, again, I'm super positive on this movie. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was great. But some of the issues that I have with this film, the first issue is that there's a couple of time jumps in this movie. Some are probably like 10 or 20 years. Some of them are just a couple of weeks. During the ones that are shorter, believe it or not, I feel like we lose out on some plot points and some key elements. Not that really, you know, I was left completely confused, but just some things were kind of throwing me off, and I was like, wait, so like a month has passed, so what happened during that month? Why are we here now? And I feel like things got left behind a little bit. Didn't really affect the film for me too much. I feel like once we started to get into the next time jump, into the next phase of life, I kind of caught on relatively quick, but that did throw me off a little bit. Also, there's a love interest type of character in here. I don't want to touch on too many things. I don't think he's developed enough. I wish he got just a couple more lines, and I think that would have made him like a lot more memorable and a little bit of like a better character if maybe they even just talked a little bit more. I get the shtick is that Furiosa doesn't really talk that much, but I wish that they maybe had like a little bit more conversations, you know, going on there. Would have made things a lot better. The last thing that I just want to throw in here is the editing. I feel like sometimes, and it could be a stylistic choice, maybe it's just me, some of the editing feels a little choppy, a little bit weird, and it throws me off a bit. And speaking of the editing and the technical aspects, the CGI. I think that the CGI in here, there's a good amount of it, and that's okay, I get it, you know, not everything can be practical, but it looks a bit cheap at times, and I think I might be wrong that the budget of this movie was like 160 million. If it was like 80 to 100, I'd be like, okay, I get it, no problem. But when you're almost hitting Marvel movie status, you should probably have better CGI in the film. I get it, you have big stars that you have to pay, but some of the CGI was throwing me off a little bit. It kind of took me out of the movie slightly, but regardless, I just want to make things clear. I loved this movie. Now, with all my thoughts out of the way, now that I've gotten through this emotional roller coaster action-packed movie, what's my final verdict? What's my final score of the film? I think that I'm going to settle with a 4 out of 5. This is an awesome movie. I could actually see myself raising this grade if I see it a second time, which I'd hopefully like to be able to see this a second time soon. But man, I highly recommend going to see this movie. I don't even think that you really need to see the second film, or I should say, you know, the first film, because technically this is a prequel, whatever, you guys get what I'm saying. Before seeing this, I think you could actually watch this movie on its own. But man, this is a good movie. 4 out of 5, like I already said, highly recommend. Guys, that's gonna just about do it for this video today. I really hope you enjoyed this review. I enjoyed Furiosa, so I enjoyed talking about this movie, that's for sure. Guys, thank you so much for watching this video. I love you guys, and I'll see you in the next video.